Welcome to Japan Station, where people come to talk about Japan. I'm Tony Vega. I recently rebranded from Tony Vega to Tony Vega because it's better for SEO. As I'm sure you know, because you've got a pretty good SEOable name. My guest,
Gotta
I'm
get
talking to my
that
guest today.
SEO.
Yeah. So my guest today is a musician, somebody who has been in Japan, is actually going back to Japan, is also quite influenced by Japan in her music. So we're going to get to talk to her today. So NEONshe, welcome.
Hi, thank you for having me,
Hey,
Tony. Nice
no,
to meet you. Nice to
it's
see
a
you.
pleasure. It's a pleasure. It's a pleasure. So, I've been listening to your music recently, and I can tell you've got some of the influences from Japan. You seem to be drawing on some of. Well, I kind of like that genre, the kind of electronic, kind of, I don't know, poppy electronic a little bit.
Yeah,
I really dig that kind of stuff.
cool. Thank you.
I'd love to, learn more about you, but could you give us a little bit of an intro about like who you are, what you do?
So I'm called NEONshe. I am a bubblegum pop musician. I'm British. I've lived in Japan for 3 years in the past. I lived in Tokyo, and I'm going to be moving back to Kyoto at the end of the year, I think. I'm working on an album. My debut album was called J-Pop, which I released while I was in Japan, and that has a lot of songs about like my personal experience traveling and just my life. So yeah, it's great to be here. Thank you for having me.
Yeah. So, well, I read an interview. I know you've had a very, basically your whole life, you've had an interest in music. From a young age, you were, your parents, your family all seem to, pretty much everybody seems to be involved with music in some way, piano and performing and all that stuff.
Yeah.
I'm curious though, like, so when did the interest in Japan come around?
Well, actually, it was so random for me because
Mhm.
I didn't know anything about like Ghibli or like
Mm,
the culture in Japan.
mhm,
But I have a huge love for the musician Owl City,
mm,
who is quite popular in Japan, and
mm,
he released an album called Cinematic, and
mhm,
so basically Owl City is one of those musicians who's just influenced my life on such an
mhm,
amazing scale. He's one of those artists who's just who I just think is an amazing uh, artist. He's shaped a lot of why I've decided to go into like music production and stuff like that. And
mhm,
he did a tour around Japan,
mm.
and he before that he didn't really do touring for a long time. And I knew someone out in Japan, and I basically booked tickets for the gig, and
Oh.
I just finished university at the time. I was fresh out and full of full of life and ambition, and just I can do anything. So I
Mhm.
just I got myself to Japan. I spent about 3.5 weeks there. I saw the show. I cried for like 3 hours straight, and it was amazing. And even before I landed, I saw the mountains in Japan, and I just had this feeling in my heart and in my stomach, and I knew I wanted to live there. And it was weird. I can't explain it. And I was proven right. I spent the next 6 months just saving up and getting myself ready, sorting out like a working holiday visa. And
Mhm.
I was like, okay, I'm going to go there for 6 months. And 6 months turned into 3 years. And
Wow.
now here we are.
Huh.
Yeah.
Okay, so it was three weeks at first, and that was primarily the tour, right? But I guess you also got to see some other areas because that's a pretty decent amount of time, right?
Yeah, so I started off in Nagoya,
Mm-hmm.
and that was really nice. I spent a lot of my time there, and I thought it was just like this beautiful, bright, big city.
Mm-hmm.
I loved it so much. And the gig was in Tokyo,
Mm.
so I spent a couple days out there. And I also went to Tokyo Disneyland. I'm
Mm.
a massive Disney fan, so that was just like a complete dream come true.
Yeah.
And I just did all the typical things, and it was great. I had a really amazing time. But for me, it was just the atmosphere of Japan. I just felt so like I was just supposed to be there. The people there are so lovely, so relaxed. The culture is just so deep and beautiful, and I just couldn't wait to get out there as soon as I got back.
Mm-hmm. That's interesting. And you didn't have like a background in Japanese or anything like that when you first went, right?
No,
Mhm.
it was weird because I've always, I grew up on the Isle of Wight, which is a very small island in the south of England.
Mhm.
But I've always had this desire to just like travel.
Mhm.
And I didn't really know what that meant. I just knew that I just wanted to see as much as possible while I'm here on Earth, meet as many people as I can, and just have a really rich experience. So
Mhm.
I moved off the Isle of Wight when I was 18. I went to Cheltenham to study music at university, and then when the opportunity pan, I just grabbed it, and it was yeah. I went out there not knowing anything. I did study a little bit. I just knew how to say like hello, how are you, excuse me,
Mhm.
how much is
Yeah.
this, like the real basics,
Yeah.
um, and yeah, it was just one of those things. I just knew it. I just knew I had to get back out there. And then when I was out there, even though
Mhm.
for 2 years of that it was COVID, so I'm sure it was a very different experience to like
Sure.
normal life in Japan,
Mhm.
I still really loved it. And when I came back to England after COVID, I kind of I knew quite soon afterwards that I wanted to go again, like go somewhere else. And
Mhm.
actually, that somewhere else is Kyoto. So I'm going to go live
Mhm.
in Kyoto. Yeah.
Yeah. So okay, so then the second time you went back for the working holiday, where were you
Mm.
primarily?
I was in Tokyo for
Mhm.
yeah, so I basically I went out there for a year,
Mhm.
and then I could get a work visa after that, so that's how I extended my stay. And I
Mhm.
stayed in Tokyo the whole time. I started off in East Tokyo. I was
Mhm.
living in like Ryazu, like Minami Gyotoku area.
Mm,
And
okay.
the reason I lived there is because it was so close to Tokyo Disneyland. Yeah,
Yeah.
I could catch a bus and 20 minutes I was there. So
Yeah.
I was straight on that. Um, and then eventually I just kind of moved to the other side. I ended up being in Kichijoji for a bit, like
Mhm.
Mitaka area, and I loved it there. It was just so bustling and busy and fun.
Mhm.
And then by the end of it, I kind of wanted a bit more simplicity in my life. I was an early 20-year-old when I went to Tokyo, and I'd never lived in a city before. So I was like
Mhm.
really wanting to do that. And now I'm much more relaxed. I just want to be in nature.
Mhm.
So I ended up living in like Haijima area by the end
Mhm.
of my 3 years. And yeah, and this is another reason why I want to go to Kyoto, because I think I'm going to be close to Osaka, which is a city that I really love, as you can probably
Mhm.
imagine already.
Yeah.
But also, you still get that sense of nature around you without feeling
Mhm.
too like intensely like around the skyscrapers and all that.
Mhm.
So yeah.
Mhm. So the working holiday thing is something, unfortunately, Americans we don't have that, right? So
Okay.
it's a really convenient system. You know, I've met so many people that have either done that or were on that. But basically, you have how is it? You can go and you can find a job while you're there, and you can go for a limited amount of time. How does that work?
The working holiday is quite
Mm-hmm.
free, to be honest. I know people
Mm-hmm.
who have done it that way, who have gone and found a job after arriving.
Mm-hmm.
But I found a job before I arrived, just as a kind of safety net.
Mm-hmm.
I just didn't want to be freaking out about
Sure,
like,
sure.
and also, it's such a limited amount of time. A year sounds like a long time, but it's really
It's
not,
not.
like when
Yeah.
you're like in a new place and
Mm-hmm.
wanting to just experience as much as possible. So I did get a job, and that was my first like adult job out of uni. So
Oh,
I'm
what were you
so
doing? What were you doing?
I was in a kindergarten. I was
Oh,
teaching in
nice.
this really cute little tiny international kindergarten, and
Uh-huh, uh-huh.
with just little babies and little kids everywhere. It was just like the most sweet. It was a bit crazy at times,
Of
but
course, of course.
it was just lovely. I loved it, and I was teaching English and music there, and I've always been able to teach music in Japan, which I'm really grateful for.
Yeah.
And I was we basically I was in control of doing like the school shows, the Christmas shows, the sports days,
Wow.
yeah, it was amazing. And I got them to sing like Disney songs, and they were amazing because a lot of these kids were bilingual as well. And they'd all help each other, and we'd put on these really lovely performances, and everyone would be crying, and it was just such an amazing atmosphere. So yeah, I'm really grateful for it. But I ultimately, because it's my first job, that's why I'm grateful. But yeah, I ended up staying there for about a year and a half, and they supported my work visa. And as I moved across Tokyo, I just kind of kept doing the singing, and I think I released my first song with NEONshe about half a year or maybe a bit longer into my first year into Japan. Although I had NEONshe like kind of in the background just bubbling for a while, I knew I wanted to create stuff like this. And then moving to Tokyo was just like the arrow being what's the word I'm looking for? Being like pushed forward.
The kind of catalyst, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely. It just felt so right. Yeah. So yeah, but yeah, the working holiday is a really useful visa to be able to have.
Yeah. Yeah. And, I mean, come on. And the kids get to, sing and stuff, do stuff with you. That was pretty cool.
Yeah, so much fun.
That's great. So, okay. So, I mean, as I said earlier, I know you've been involved with music, pretty much all your life, and your family and all that. But so, at what point did you bring about this NEONshe, project, and this phase of your musical journey, so to speak?
I wanted to create something that I could just do anything with, like especially like within electronic music. That's the kind of the theme that will always be kind of reoccurring with NEONshe is that it will be electronic, and that's just because I have such a massive love for it. But it came about because I was doing music under my real name, which I don't really disclose now as an artist. And the reason for that is I just wanted more privacy. I wanted to be able to separate my music life and my life. And feel like I can just be a bit crazy and be as expressive as I want to be without merging the two. Sure. So I created NEONshe as a kind of catalyst, and like that kind of being able to be more free, really. And I had loads and loads of music just in the background, and being able to like experiment more has just been such a blessing to my life, and not feel like, oh, what's so and so going to think about that, and not what how are people going to perceive that, because it's all about what I want now. And that in itself has kind of helped me to find an amazing tribe and an amazing like group of people who are also musicians or music fans, and we all come together for this like love of music. And I feel more supported than ever doing NEONshe. And I think that's because it's NEONshe. Yeah, I hope that makes sense.
Yeah. And can you explain the meaning of the name, or where that came from?
Yeah, I had so many names just like on notes all over the place, and NEONshe was one of the first ones I came up with. Neon, because everything I do, I want it to be bright, I want it to be colorful and fun. And then she, because I'm just a really feminine person. I love to express my femininity, and so I'm also part of the LGBT scene, and I just think it's a really positive way to like show who I am, like as an artist, as a person. So yeah, I guess NEONshe was one of the first names I came up with, and I circled back round to it after like a year of deciding, and it was the right one all along. But I'm glad that I had lots of options to choose from, because it just confirmed to me that this was the right name.
Right. Yeah, I mean, that's often how it works. It's like, oh yeah, should have just gone with the first one, right?
Yeah. Yeah, it would have saved me a lot of time.
Yeah. But you don't know until you go through the whole process, right?
Yeah, that's it.
This show is made possible in part by Patreon support. So want to say thank you to Eve, who recently joined the Patreon. You can join the Patreon for as little as $1 a month. That gives you early access to episodes, and honestly, like, it just ensures that I can keep producing this stuff, because I love doing it, but it is niche content and I'm trying to grow it. It costs money to do it. I want to do more stuff. It costs money. So if you want to support what I'm doing, I would certainly appreciate that. Content is certainly, I love doing it, but any financial support, it helps. You can also do a one-time donation over at ko-fi.com/Japankyo. Recently, Pekka and Anissa, they really helped me out. So I recently walked from Kyoto to Tokyo. It was a whole crazy thing that I did. I called it the Tokaido Challenge. More content about that is coming soon. But they combined, they did $90, Pekka $50, Anissa $40. Thank you so much. So that's ko-fi.com/Japankyo if you want to do a one-time donation. If you want to just make sure, that I have a kind of a steady thing to cover my cost, you could go over to Patreon, japankyo.com/Patreon. So I know I'm kind of begging at the moment, but it is what it is, right? Content creation, that's the kind of thing that we got to do. We got to do. I'm trying to grow this. And so, I got to throw in these little commercials. But anyway, let's get back into the episode. So your first album, as you said, it's called J-pop. There's a song there called Osaka Child. Well, the whole album is not like directly all about Japan, but obviously J-pop, the Japanese, your time in Japan seems to have been an influence in that. Can you tell us a little bit about why you called it J-pop, and then we can get into Osaka Child specifically a little bit after that.
Yeah, I love J-pop music. I really, when I moved to Japan, and even before I moved to Japan, when I was getting excited to move to Japan, it was like all I was listening to. I learned about like Perfume, which is a band I really like, and like Kyary, Pamyu, which I just, it's so fun. I love it. And I didn't know like baby metal before I moved to Japan.
Sure.
And I think they're really fun as well. Like, it's a completely new twist. I love it. So J-pop for me was just kind of like a encapsulated, I guess, what's the word I'm looking for? Words today. It's like, it was the kind of rounded,
encapsulation of all that, like what?
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to say. Yeah, okay. What you said. It encapsulated my first year in Japan.
Go. Okay,
definitely.
Gotcha.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem.
So I'd been listening to loads of J-pop, and I knew that I wanted my style to be like directed in that style, but also just in a style that I like as well. I didn't want to just be like, okay, I'm making J-pop because I want to appeal to the Japanese market, and I want to, of course, when I'm in Japan, I want to appeal to the Japanese market. That's important to me. I want to meet people who are on the same level as me and who understand like my music and enjoy it. But at the same time, I wanted to create a style that was like all about what I like as well, like as I was saying before, this kind of free creativity. So J-pop, I created the style just by messing around with loads and loads of different sounds and stuff. But also I traveled a lot in Japan as well. I spent a week in Kyoto. I visited Osaka and Nara, and as I said, I went to Nagoya. I've been all around the different cities in Tokyo, at different different provinces.
I guess like districts or like wards or whatever. Tokyo's confusing.
The little sections in Tokyo.
Yeah.
And to sum it up, like the whole experience was just J-pop. For me, it was all about the music, all about the fun, all about that kind of, cute and bright Japanese vibe that J-pop is. So for me, it was the perfect title. I do also have a track on there called J-pop, which is it's a sadder song disguised as a happy song about how I struggled with like the language barrier and the cultural difference. But ultimately, J-pop for me has a very happy meaning. Yeah.
And you started working on this while you were in Japan?
Yeah, so most of the songs were created while I was in Japan. Some of them were created beforehand, and I knew that I wanted them on my next album. I thought they were like strong enough and like meaningful enough to be on there. But like, so all of the songs, like, so you've got like Wrong Boy's Attention, Rainbow Flag, Osaka Child, all of the singles, they were all written in Japan. And then I guess the most prominent song that wasn't written in Japan was Chase the Sunlight. And that was a song about finding love and being able to travel with that person, having someone that has the goals that align with you. And I thought that was a great song for the album because it kind of encapsulates, you know, how much I wanted to be free from, you know, the boundaries of just staying in your own country and just, you know, being able to explore the world. But the idea of doing it with someone who has that same dream is just lovely. So I thought that would be a great song for the album that wasn't written in Japan. So yeah, it was a mix. It was a mix.
I have to say, Wrong Boy's Attention, that one is stuck in my head. Like,
hey.
It's a good melody.
Thank you.
It's a good hook. It's a good hook. So
I'm so glad
I
you think
recommend
so.
checking that one out. Yeah.
Yeah, that was a fun one. I really loved the piano in that one. I was like, oh, that's totally like J-pop all over. And that was one of the first songs I wrote like in Japan for that album. So I was really trying to just get the Japanese influence.
Right.
And I think I nailed it. I think I got it really well with that particular piano part. So yeah, that's why that one was like the first single, because I was really proud of the vibe of that one.
Yeah, it's so you mentioned a few of the people that or groups that like really that you like that caught your attention, you know, Kyary, Pamyu, Perfume, and like the producer of both of those is Yasutaka Nakata.
Yes.
Yeah, and I love that guy. Like, it's like
amazing.
whatever he makes, I'm like, I love it. So,
yeah, and like how can you be that talented?
I know, he's like, I don't know. It seems like there's 10 people in him or something because like that he did that. Oh, before that he did something else. Before that he did something else, and it's like everything he's ever done is pretty much like, yep, I love it. So
yeah, he's like goals. He is totally goals.
Yeah. So yeah, we were talking briefly about this before we started recording, but you know, I had my own stage kind of playing around music too, and I tried so hard to emulate him, and no, can't do it. Yeah.
Keep going.
We'll see. Maybe one day after I'm less busy with all this, but
yeah.
So okay, but Osaka Child. So what I have lived in Osaka. I studied abroad in Osaka. I lived in Kobe too, which is right next to Osaka. So you know that's kind of a special place for me as well. But what kind of drew your attention to Osaka? What took you there?
First of all, so jelly that you lived in Osaka. But yeah, I went there just for one day in the end, and I've never felt how I felt in Osaka anywhere else in the world. It was just it was so strange for me. I remember I went there with my best girlfriend, and we spent the day like going up and down that really famous street, and we went on that huge like wheel that you can like see the whole city
on the building, right?
Yeah.
That's in Umeda.
Yeah, it was amazing. We just had the best time, ate the most amazing food, and I just felt there was a very cool vibe there. Like everyone there was a bit more like relaxed, like very like a bit more alternative, a bit more like free, a bit more themselves. I feel like I love Tokyo, don't get me wrong. However, I feel like the Tokyo people are very proud, and they have this like Tokyo strut, I call it.
I love that.
They have a Tokyo strut. And it's so funny. I mean, I totally developed the Tokyo strut when I was living there, and then when I came back to England, and everyone is quite chill and like walks really slowly, and I've got like this big like stompy strut going on, and I had to like learn to like slow my roll. But I think that's just because in Tokyo everyone's just so go. It's such
it really is
such an intense place. for better or for worse, I
Uh-huh.
loved it when I was in
Yeah,
my
yeah.
early 20s. I'm not sure I could do it now.
Yeah, I mean,
But
there's
I
good and
love
bad to both sides, but yeah, like even
absolutely.
just now when I was in Tokyo a few days ago, it's like
Yeah.
if you stop moving, like everybody around you going to get angry at you because you
Yeah.
just stop the whole flow of everything. So yeah,
Yeah. There's definitely this sense of like togetherness, isn't it?
yeah,
Togetherness.
yeah, yeah.
You just gotta all go together.
Hmm.
But I love that about Japan as well. The fact that there's so much order and everyone just respects each other. And even in
Hmm.
Tokyo, which is such a crazy city, like there is such a great system. Like nobody's falling over each other. No one's butting into each other. It's
Hmm.
amazing, really.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, going back to Osaka, I saw people with tattoos for the first time in
Oh,
Osaka as well.
really?
That was a
Hmm.
really big one. I
Hmm.
I love I love art. I love tattoos. I've got quite a few.
Hmm.
I found that when I was in Japan, I hid them a bit.
Hmm.
I didn't want to scare anyone. I didn't want
Hmm.
to like
Sure.
um I didn't want to come across a certain way. But in
Hmm.
Osaka, I couldn't help but feel comfortable with
Hmm.
the fact that I'd chosen to get lots of tattoos, and I felt like if I had showed them off, I wouldn't have got judged. I wouldn't have it wouldn't have been a bad thing.
Hmm.
Um, and so that was a really big one for me as well. Just this sense of individualism and expression that you kind of don't really hear about in Japan, because there is such a sense of togetherness. As I said, it's all
Hmm.
about being, um, the same,
Hmm.
which I really love in some ways. But Osaka kind of pushed against that, I felt,
Hmm.
and I liked it a lot. And so, and yeah, as soon as I got back off my holiday, Osaka Child just kind of spilled out of me. It was just one of those songs that just came down and came out. Like
Right.
um, it was a really easy song to write, and to this day it's one of my favorite ones, just because of that freedom feeling it gives me. Mm,
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
Yeah, that's great. And so then, so you're going back to the Kansai area this time, Kyoto specifically. When is that? And is this for like a longer stay, or like what's kind of the plan?
Yeah, so I'm going back at the end of the year. I haven't quite decided if I'm going before Christmas or after Christmas. It really
Hmm.
depends on arrangements, and also like, this will be the last Christmas with my family potentially. So
Hmm.
I really want to just and also Japan doesn't really celebrate Christmas, which is quite a big
Yeah,
deal
not
for
in the
me.
same way, right? In a
Not in
very
the
different
same
way. Yeah.
way. It's totally different. Like people
Yeah.
work on Christmas. People don't
Oh
have
yeah.
time off, which,
Yeah.
it's Japan. You can kind of expect that. But oh my
Yeah.
gosh, I was, that was a huge culture shock for me. So
Yeah.
we'll see.
Yeah.
But I do want to get out as soon as possible, really. So
Hmm.
I'm
Hmm.
undecided. But I'm hoping to stay there for the long term.
Yeah.
I'm kind of looking at like 7 years to a decade. That's kind of my time frame. That gives
Gotcha.
me a lot of time to like enjoy the culture and learn the language properly, because I'm studying every day, but I still
Hmm.
feel like I know nothing.
Hmm.
I'm sure anyone who studies a language knows how that
Takes
feels.
time.
It takes a
Absolutely.
lot of
We've all
time.
been there. Yeah. Yeah.
But I'm really grateful, and I love
Hmm.
the language. I love learning the language, and I love progressing. It makes me feel so good. But yeah, after Japan, I'm not sure. I might stay there if I really love
Hmm.
it. I might
Yeah.
stay there. But I'm also looking at other countries as well. I've always been interested in the idea of Australia,
Hmm.
or maybe even Canada.
Hmm.
So we'll just see where the tide takes me. Speaking of, I've got a new song out this Friday. I don't know if
Hmm.
we'll have time to talk about that, but that's a song called "Ride the Tide," and that's all about going from England to Japan, and the kind of the struggles that it's taken to get there, but
Hmm.
ultimately like the how amazing it is to be able to go from one place to the other and have the opportunity and be able to like find yourself within that experience.
Hmm.
Mm,
Hmm. Oh,
yeah.
that's great. Okay, so I think that might be out by the time this comes out, and if that's the
Mm.
case, I mean, I'll put in your, what's the best place for people to find you? Then is it Instagram?
Yeah, I'm really Oh my gosh, the word's gone. What is it today with words? I'm really active. I'm
There
really
you go.
active on Instagram. We got there
Yeah.
in the end.
Yeah.
I'm really active on Instagram.
Uh-huh.
I'm also on Threads now. Threads is
Oh,
pretty
okay.
cool.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, like music wise, I'm on whatever streaming platform you like to
Hmm.
use, like Spotify, YouTube, Apple, Amazon, and it will be out everywhere online. Out and Bandcamp as well for the, for the hardcore fans.
Right, right. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So
Mm,
just look up NEONshe, NEONSHE.
that's right.
Should come up, and of course, there's a link tree. Everything I can put that in the show notes. But
Thank
then,
you.
so should then people be expecting, like for example, this next song that you just mentioned would be
Mhm.
part of the next album that will come out eventually? Is that the idea?
No, no. So this
No.
one is a one-off. This is a collaboration that I'm doing
Hmm.
with a German producer called
Oh.
Jay Cords, and
Hmm.
he's really cool. He's got an amazing motivation about him. Like he's very focused, and I really like that. And that's one of the reasons I really wanted to collaborate with him. And
Hmm.
he sent me this amazing backing track,
Hmm.
and he sent it to me, and it was very like Owl City-esque, and I
Hmm.
mentioned my love for Owl City earlier,
Hmm.
and so I was like, yeah, I definitely want to do a song in this style. And this middle section as well, it's got like this mad dubstep middle, and I've never
Hmm.
like done dubstep, but I was like one of those kids like back in the day when I was like
Hmm.
14, 15, like I just loved like Skrillex and like all that,
Yeah, yeah.
all that. So I was really feeling nostalgic when he brought this song to me, and I was like, I'm definitely going to work with you, and I want to write a song about my experience of moving to Japan, because that's what's going on in my life right now. And he was
Mhm,
just like, yeah, absolutely. And he's spent a lot of time working within this academy,
mhm,
working on music production. So I'm really, really happy with how it's turned out. And we've got this campaign for it, this like marketing
mhm,
promotional campaign, I guess, coming out for the next month, promoting
mhm,
the song. So I'm really excited about that. But what I'm working on afterwards is a brand new album all about my experience with mental health.
mm,
I've had a really crazy year,
mhm,
and experienced so much and learned a lot about myself, and grown a lot. And so I'm putting it all into an album, and to show the progression of my life, especially over the last like year and a half, while I've been living in England.
mhm,
Ultimately, it's a happy ending, I'm glad to say. The album's called Butterfly, and
mm,
it is a album about transformation, which is where the name comes from.
mhm, mhm. That's cool. All right. So, yeah, links in the show notes, and I look forward, hopefully somewhere down the line, you're total like vet living in Japan. You've been there,
Yeah,
like years, and then you'll come back and you'll be all
yeah,
like, super Japan, like everything about Japan. And we'll have like a
yes.
deep, 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 you know,
Let's do it. I'm so down.
yeah.
Let's do it.
Yeah, I look forward to that. I mean, getting to live in Kyoto is a wonderful opportunity, and
Yeah,
yeah, of course, Kyoto is a wonderful place.
yeah,
And like you said, there's the nature that's there, there's the
yeah,
history, there's the temples, there's everything. It's such a wonderful
yeah,
place, but also it's so convenient to be there because you can just hop on over to Osaka, you can go over to Kobe, that whole Kansai
yeah,
area, Nara, and the bullet train is there too, so you can go
yeah.
further if you want. So it is a great place.
Yeah, I'm so excited. Like every
Mhm.
day, I'm just like, I want to go to Japan. I want to go to Japan. I'm just buzzing to get back.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, I think you will have a great time. So again, check out let's just let people know what the Instagram handle is. Is it just Neonshe? What is it?
It's just NEONshe,
Okay, okay,
Neonshe. That's me.
okay. Gotcha. Okay. Well, links in the show notes either way. But Neonshi, thank you so much for making time, and best of luck going to Kyoto and all that. I'm sure you'll do great. But good
Thank
luck.
you, Tony.
Yeah.
Thank you
Thank you.
so
Thank you.
much. And I'll probably see you out there at some point.
At some point, I'm always going back. So yeah.
Thank you for having me.